I'm Stephen Bassett, the Executive Director of the Paradigm Research Group, Action Committee XPAC, and I'm based in Washington, D.C. area. I am a political activist. I'm also a registered lobbyist with the United States Congress. I produce a conference every year in the Washington area called the X Conference. And Paradigm Research Group's mandated mission is very simple. It is the resolution of the UFO ET issue by political means, which is quite simply the eventual disclosure and acknowledgement of the ET presence by the world governments, starting likely with the United States. Paradigm Research Group, as it happens, was founded in 1996, and now it's been almost 14 years. I didn't think it would take this long. I thought it would not be that difficult, but it's a big issue, obviously, with huge implications, and there are a lot of reasons to put it off. In general, right now in the United States, and particularly, our government is putting everything off. They're kicking all the cans down the road, and this is one of those cans, but this is not one that can wait any longer. So there's a good possibility that the acknowledgement of the extraterrestrial presence, the end of this key phase of this major transition we're under, could happen at any time, possibly this year in 2010. The political movement is possible because a lot of people worked for decades to confirm the basic facts about the extraterrestrial reality. It was not easy because the government, of course, had an official policy that there was no issue. But it was worse than that. The government of the U.S., with the help of its allies, with the agreement of its allies, undermined the efforts of the citizens to find the facts of this. They disrupted the research, they intimidated researchers, they planted false stories, they founded the tabloid National Enquirer and the Weekly World News and put silly stories in there. It was a very sophisticated intel operation designed to contain the UFO ET issue, not to make it a secret. It couldn't possibly be a secret. The ET phenomenon was manifesting all over the world, but if they could ghettoize it so that the media wouldn't cover it, the Congress wouldn't engage it, the schools wouldn't teach it, and private philanthropists wouldn't fund it, it could neutralize it. And they succeeded. It was quite successful. But it's over. I mean, it was a good run. They were able to contain it for 63 years, but that program is basically done, and so we will get an announcement from some venue sometime pretty soon. The overall field of study that is now engaged in this new political process is called exopolitics. That word didn't emerge until the year 2000. It's simply the term that encompasses all of the activity of a social-political nature with respect to this. It's very broad. Exopolitical science would do as well. We call it exopolitics. And it covers a lot of territory. The past, the present, the future, the government's actions, the citizens' actions, the social implications, studies, and so forth. But it's not science. It's not like ufology. It's not the science of the stuff. Now, within the realm of exopolitics, there's a lot going on. The most important thing right now is the disclosure movement. In other words, exopolitics isn't a movement, but there is a disclosure movement, which is exopolitical. Now, the disclosure movement is straightforward enough. It is an international effort to ensure that an entity, probably the United States, could be another country, could be the UN, could be the European Union, will go before the citizen, obviously the leader, the head of state, the head of the organization, go before the citizens and inform them of the truth of the extraterrestrial reality, which will be followed by a most interesting press conference. That's disclosure. That's all it is. It's a big D disclosure. It's not small d. It's not just the revealing. It is, in fact, an acknowledgement. It's a formal event. So the disclosure movement is to get that to happen, and that could happen at any time. Now, once the announcement is made, once the world is told you're not alone, then several thousand questions instantly come into play. Now, how all that's going to work out, what's going to be asked, what's going to be told first, how fast it comes out, 50,000, maybe 100,000 books will be written about that throughout the rest of this century. We can touch on a few things. What are some of the key exopolitical questions that people will want to address right away? The first one that will come up, you can be sure, is this: are these aliens a threat to us as a species, as a planet? Now, the fact is that is really a very complicated answer. It would be great to be able to say, absolutely, get your guns, get ready to sign up, we've got to build a billion-man army, and we're going to war. Or, they're fantastic, it's all going to work out. But it's not that simple. One, we're dealing with multiple entities, likely from multiple civilizations. They may be interacting with each other out there in the galaxy, but nevertheless, they're multiple civilizations, which means possibly multiple agendas, multiple worldviews. And so we've got a spectrum of engagement here. Now, with that in mind, and that's just who's engaging us. I mean, I assure you that if there's 1, 2, 3 other sentient species in the galaxy, there's 3,000, 30,000. There's 200 billion stars in the Milky Way. So who knows what lies ahead? But we do know a good deal about these entities, primarily from the reports of tens of thousands of what are called contactees. These are individuals that are having direct engagement with these beings, physical engagement with these beings. And they have been writing their accounts and sending them to researchers for the last 25 years. There's tens of thousands of them. And from that evidence, there is a general sense, when all is said and done, it will be okay, right? That the complex relationships that have existed between these beings and humans and this planet, which may go back as far as we can go, it could go back 10,000, 100,000, even several million years, that when we know the full picture, we'll probably go, okay, all right, I'm okay with that. But that doesn't mean that we won't find it a bit disturbing. So, as I've told, many audiences, in the year after disclosure, you're going to hear and learn some things which I think will excite you and make you very motivated about the world, about this planet, its future, and what have you. But you're also going to learn some things that are going to make you sit down and go, oh boy, wow, I had no idea, that kind of thing. So that's the first question that comes to mind. And I'll simplify it further. Are they an immediate threat? I don't think so, based upon 15 years of this. But I assure you, I can't say that for certain. Nobody can. Then comes questions like, well, has there been any interaction between governments and these entities secretly behind the scenes? Have they agreements, treaties, understandings? Have deals been cut? Gifts exchanged? We don't know. There have been hints. There has been the odd piece of evidence, but there's definitely not a body of evidence that's beyond a reasonable doubt. Would it surprise me? No, it wouldn't. Would it have significant political implications? Oh, yes, it would. And so that's one of the things that will get asked right away. There has always been the question of amnesty. I expect some amnesty to take place after disclosure. there was an effort to try to get that put in place before disclosure, meaning that by presidential directive, those who wish to come forward from within government who are under national security and disclosure agreements could speak without fear of legal prosecution. It isn't going to happen before disclosure. There are just logistical reasons why it won't. But after disclosure, I think it will. I will certainly bring it up. Others will bring it up. In order to grease the skids a little bit so that people can come forward and get this out. Because one thing I can tell you for sure about disclosure, or the post-disclosure world, is that most everybody that learns about this is going to want to know as much as they can, as fast as they can. And the government is not going to want to tell them as much as they want to know, and it's not going to want to tell them as fast as they want to know it. And so you're going to have a tug-of-war that's going to go on between the government and the people about when and what. Now, what's interesting about that is that the media, the massive media structure that exists now, which by and large has been servicing the truth embargo and helping to contain it, much more rigorously in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, much less so now. But that media, which has been sort of chained up for 6 decades, is going to immediately jump right over to the citizen side, and it's going to be us in the media against the government. What do you know? When do you know it? And so forth. The amnesty will make it easier for people to come forward. There will be a pressure to have that happen. I think the government will probably yield on that. And so these are just a few of the hundreds of questions that will come forward right away as people try to adjust and sort through this. And all I can say is it's going to be the greatest show on earth. And if you don't have a 50-inch LCD television, get one right away. If you don't have cable, sign up. Get a cell phone, get online, whatever. Because this is going to be a rather phenomenal year, first year certainly after disclosure takes place. In terms of assessing the exopolitical movement, disclosure movement, has had two fundamental purposes. One is to get disclosure done, to make it happen, please sure. And the other is to raise public awareness in people. Not to the issue of ETs and UFOs, because that's pretty much known everywhere. The second reason, an important reason for the disclosure movement, is to raise the public awareness, not simply about UFOs, because people know about that worldwide, but about the fact that, well, it is real, and at some point you're going to be told it's real. In other words, to prepare them, to get them a chance to adjust, to think about it, and maybe even start to fund some structures that the citizens could rely on to represent them, right? So the government doesn't call all the shots. Now, when it's all said and done, it may be that the entire disclosure movement did not shorten the truth embargo by a single day, that it ended when the government decided it would end, and that's it. A lot of people felt the same way about the anti-war movement in Vietnam, over Vietnam. They didn't shorten the war a single day. But it certainly raised the awareness of people about the politics of the time and about the nature of proxy wars during the Cold War. So I'm absolutely certain the disclosure movement is extremely successful in raising this issue. It's growing very rapidly. If you Google exopolitics now, the search engine will produce 1.5 million pages with the term exopolitics on it. It'll be 3 million soon enough. And so in that regard, it's greatly successful. And I happen to think that, as I see the movement now, that it is playing a part in tipping the scales to a decision by a government, and will in fact have affected the decision in the sense that helped to advance it.